This is your homework helper, Mrs. Anderson. Today I will help you with Lesson 3, Subtract Like Fractions. Please have your homework page ready and let's begin. On this homework helper section, it tells us, Carla volunteers at a veterinarian's office. Of her time spent there, 6/10 is spent grooming dogs and 1/10 is spent answering phone calls. How much more of her time is spent grooming dogs than answering phone calls? Write the difference in simplest form. When I read this part that says how much more, I know I'm going to subtract. So let's take the biggest fraction, which is 6/10, and we'll subtract the smallest fraction, which is 1/10. When I subtract like fractions, I subtract the numerators. So I would go 6 minus 1 is 5, and my denominator stays the same. Tenths, 5/10. Then it also said to write the difference in simplest form. So I take 5/10 and I need to get the greatest common factor. Well, the greatest common factor of 5 and 10 is 5. So I'll divide by 5, divide the numerator by 5, and divide the denominator by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 1/2 of her time is spent grooming dogs. Let's see, so how much more of her time is spent grooming dogs than answering phone calls? Half of her time. Okay, she spends more than half of her time doing that. All right, you're going to do the other ones down here. So you will subtract the numerators. 3 minus 1 is 2, and the denominator stays the same, 2/6. I can see that both of these numbers are even, so that tells me that I can simplify this fraction. So I need to divide by the greatest common factor. Once I divide by the greatest common factor, then I'll have the simplified version of this fraction. You'll do number 2 and number 3. And let's look at number 4 here. This tells us that the table shows the results of a survey of 28 students and their favorite tourist attractions. Use the table to answer exercises 4 and 5. So Mount Rushmore, it looks like we had about 28 students surveyed, and 14 out of the 28 said that Mount Rushmore was their favorite tourist attraction. The Grand Canyon, 8/28 of the students, and Statue of Liberty, 6/28 of the students. So let's look at the question. What fraction of students prefer Mount Rushmore over the Grand Canyon? Write in simplest form. I'll need to write down the fraction of Mount Rushmore, which is 14/28, and then I'll subtract the Grand Canyon, which is 8/28, and then once I have solved the equation, I will take the fraction and write it in simplest form. So I'll need to divide by the greatest common factor. Let's look at number 4. Number 5, suppose 4 students change their minds and choose the Statue of Liberty instead of the Grand Canyon. What part of the class now prefers Mount Rushmore over the Statue of Liberty? All right, so if 4 students change their mind, and choose the Statue of Liberty instead of the Grand Canyon, okay, we would have to change this one. Grand Canyon, let's see, it's 4 students, so we're going to have to add 4 to the Statue of Liberty. And we'll have to take off 4 from the Grand Canyon. And then what part of the class now prefers Mount Rushmore over the Statue of Liberty? We'll need to take Mount Rushmore and subtract the Statue of Liberty, the fraction for Statue of Liberty, and then write in simplest form. Okay, on a class trip to the museum, 5/8 of the students saw the dinosaurs and 2/8 of the students saw the jewelry collection. What fraction more of students saw the dinosaurs than the jewelry collection? Then write in simplest form. Okay, so you are going to subtract. What fraction more? That is also subtraction. The Indian Ocean is 2/10 of the area of the world's oceans. What fraction represents the area of the remaining oceans that make up the world's oceans? Write in simplest form. We know so we're subtracting 2/10. What are we starting with? Well, we're starting with the whole area of the world's oceans, which would be 1 whole. But I'm working with tenths, so I will write 10/10 and then subtract and simplify. Number 8, the pictures to the right show how much sausage and pepperoni pizza was left at the end of one day. Which fraction represents how much more sausage pizza than pepperoni pizza was left? You'll need to figure out the fraction of sausage, write it down. Figure out the fraction of pepperoni, write it down, and subtract. Thanks for watching this Homework Helper video. If you have questions, feel free to ask me tomorrow at school.